Welcome to another exciting episode of the Drupal Social API. All right, here we are now.
Oh, oh, it's already online. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
Great, great, great. Still working for making progress with the project.
Good. I hope so.
Okay, enough. If you want to see what we have for this week.
Yeah, please.
Okay, let me share my screen. Entire screen. Shared. Can you see my screen?
Yep, see it. Yep, see it.
Okay. This is a Drupal site, and this is my user in the Drupal site, and I have an option to add my accounts of the Twitter account. I can delete the account and try again. Let me see. Yep. I hope this works. Sometimes when you want to show something, it stops working. Let me see. Okay. Oh. I think I found an issue with this. Okay. My account. Let me. Mateus said he will be joining in a minute. Anyways, I have deleted my account, and I can add another account to this Drupal user. So I can authorize the site to auto post or to tweak actually, and yeah, here we are. And I added my account, which is this one. So in this is actually the general list of users. I can list all the users with all the accounts they have here, and this is the list of the Twitter account for this specific user. It's like what you wanted to do, like having different or many accounts with your same Drupal user. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. So you can have multiple accounts per single user.
Yes, exactly.
Brilliant.
This module is not tweeting yet because we have to define in which situation we want to tweet, or if we are going to add rules and events, which we should discuss, I think, with Mateo. He has more experience with this in terms of auto posting because he is the maintainer of Facebook auto post.
I think that the way to go here is not create any implementation point for auto posting, but just create rules integration. So whoever wants to do this can do it with rules. And then if we want, we could even provide rules export with an example, like whenever a node is created, tweet something. But the example, I think, is totally optional, and maybe something that someone else can do.
So I just want to know about rules. Do you add a rule in an event, and in that event you will execute a certain method, a certain function, or how does rules work?
So rules is basically, and here I'm simplifying. Rules is basically a collection of UI functions, right? So what that means is that you are building functions and calls using the UI. Basically, every module can expose things to rules, and rules by default will expose things that core does. So, for instance, there are conditions, like for instance, when a node is created, that is the rules condition. Sorry, that's a trigger.
That's true.
And that comes in by rules, and we don't necessarily need to do anything as a trigger because we don't generate triggers in auto posting, except if you count authorizing a Twitter account as a trigger. But that should be part of our social auth and not social post. So we don't have any triggers, but we do have actions or reactions, which is the thing that you do when a trigger happens. So for a reaction, you get the parameters that you specify in the trigger. So when you say my trigger is when an entity is saved, in the reaction you have as a parameter the entity that is saved, right? So different triggers will provide different parameters. So what we need to do is basically create a reaction that can take any parameter, and we tweak that. So we could say that as a parameter for our reaction, we need a piece of text, or as a parameter, we need an entity, a special type of entity. That's what Facebook AutoPost does. It needs that. It requires you to build a Facebook AutoPost entity, and then you post that. And there are tutorials on how to build that entity. But you do all that using rules. So basically, at the end, what you do, and again, I'm simplifying, you implement a hook that says, my reaction name is this one, and then when this is called, execute this function. So that's basically what you are doing. You are exposing a function for someone else to select from a UI and say, okay, when this happens, I'm going to execute this function that Twitter post, social Twitter post, exposes for rules. So in that scenario, you can see that you don't need to do any special integration, but leave that to the site builders.
That's clear. I understand now how it works. So we expose a functionality that can be used in an event, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. That's
and I think that may have changed in Drupal 8, the way that you implement these plugins. I think they are plugins now. In the past, they were just hooks.
They are plugins now. Yeah, I have seen rules, but as a conditions, not as a reaction. So they were implemented as plugins.
Yeah, they are different things. And ideally, we would want like this kind of flow, and you can see how powerful is this if you go back and check the videos for Facebook AutoPost. You can do pretty much whatever you want.
Do you have videos about how Facebook AutoPost works?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, didn't know that. Interesting.
I think it's linked in the project page of Facebook AutoPost.
I will look at that later.
Yep.
And okay, in terms of this Facebook AutoPost, do you anonymous users to just to grant permissions, or how do you manage?
Yes.
Okay. And
so what I do in there is when the function that gets executed by rules, if it detects that the user, that we cannot resolve a Facebook user from the context, and the context is the authenticated user, right? If the authenticated user is not mapped to a Facebook user, which would be the case in the anonymous user, right? But also for authenticated users that don't have a Facebook user. In that event, instead of just doing whatever, executing the code or failing or whatever, what I do is I issue a redirection to the permission grant.
Yep. So, do you manage to have register users in Drupal as well as anonymous ones?
I think that I'm treating all of the users as anonymous.
As anonymous, so they don't you're not storing
No,
the tokens in a database.
no, this is all session based.
Because what I did so far was to store the access token and access token secret of users with an ID in Drupal.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and then that's great. But we also need the other one.
for anonymous,
Yes.
right? Okay. So for anonymous one, we don't store in the database because we don't have reference to a Drupal user. So we just have to
Yeah.
ask for the permission. That's great.
Yes,
Well,
exactly. And we should, since it's so easy to do, if we support anonymous users, we should also support authenticated users that don't want to store the account details of Twitter in Drupal.
so we have to provide the both options.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, what we would do is this an anonymous user? If yes, then use the session based. If no, has this user stored the token? If yes, then use the database. If no, use the session base.
Mm-hmm. So the user has to the authenticated user has to decide how he wants to treat the authorization.
I would say that the authenticated user, they can link an account with Drupal if they want, and if they do that in advance, they will not be bothered with the authentication screen with the redirection, right? But if they didn't do the link before the action happens, then they will be treated as session-based.
Okay. So do you see what I have in the?
Yes. So what you have right now is the ability to link the account,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's great. The ability to link the account will give us like half of the use cases. But now the other half is the same, right? If they don't have a linked account method.
Yeah. So if they don't have a linked account, they can use the session based.
Yes.
So because I created a permission that is perform auto Turing task or something like that, that you have to assign the roles that will be able to auto that will be able to grant permission to the Drupal site to do it on their behalf.
Yeah. Cool. That's okay because you can grant that to the anonymous user if you want to.
Yeah, you can actually. Yep. And the
Cool.
other use case is when you have an account for the company that can be used for many different users, right?
Yeah, but that will need to be handled a little bit differently.
Different. We can have like the account as an entity in which you store an array of entity references to user IDs. Like I created
Yeah. Maybe. The thing is that remember that we want to support not just a company account, but a collection of company accounts.
And you can add as many accounts you want, I think.
Yes.
So you can create you can have one account that will be able for you and me to use it, and then you can create another account that only Daniel and someone else can
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah.
And when
So
it comes to choosing which account you're going to use, I'm assuming it's all going to be in one place. So you're not going to have a drop-down list for personal accounts and a drop-down list for company accounts. It'll just be a drop-down list for all accounts that you have the permission to post with, yes?
I think that there is some confusion here. The company account, you don't get to choose. And if we do it rules based, which is the way to go, I think, there is no drop down when the action happens. This just gets executed by rules.
But if you have multiple company accounts already registered, you're saying the rules will decide which you post under.
Exactly. So if you have multiple accounts, so when we create the rules integration, one of the things that you need to set up is the configuration screen for that action or for that reaction, right? And in that configuration screen is where you decide, hey, this this posting is going to happen in these 3 company accounts, and this other action in another rule is gonna happen in the user performing the action, right? So
Can I
there are 2
clarify
scenarios. There are 2
Have you
scenarios. One when you create a node, and anyone creating a node posts to. Imagine that you are managing Drupal.org. One of the scenarios would be anyone creating a node in there with the word security will automatically tweet to the Drupal security account, and any post created tweets to the Drupal.org account. And that is regardless of who is performing the action, right? And then there is that's the company or the site-wide account use case, where you can have multiple of them, like the security and the Drupal.org account. And the other scenario is where you post based on the user performing the action. So, and in that scenario, you cannot choose, right? If Valentin is performing an action in Drupal.org, like commenting, he's putting that comment in his Twitter account if they select instead of the company or the site-wide, the user account link.
Okay, just to comment on that scenario. First issue is I know that when you comment on an issue, you can attribute it to yourself working for a particular organization. I have, so as a developer, I may have multiple organizations that I'm working on behalf of. Would we do this in the same way that I would be able to choose?
No, that's not how it works, because
is that not how you want it to work, or what is it that you are you
no.
Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, it has nothing to do with what I want. It's the fact that there is no same way of providing multiple accounts per user and then inject a UI in a generic way, so it can be flexible, so every site builder can do that. So so basically what I'm saying is that the only UI that we're going to have to configure the rule is the rules UI, and you will not expose that, and you cannot make that dynamic for every user.
And what's the reason behind that I, as a user, I can't choose which Twitter account I'm going to post to with a particular post?
Well, you can, but you need to build that. We cannot
Oh
build.
yeah. Okay, cool. So it's really what you're saying is more just a question of what's achievable with this current bit of development. You're not saying it's restricted. You know, that you
No, exactly, yeah.
okay,
So,
fine, it's cool. Yeah, I can't expect every scenario to be developed in this current grant. So yeah, that's fine. That fine.
Okay, but in terms of permissions and roles, there should be a permission for a role that can be able to add site-wide Twitter accounts, right?
I would assume that we can start with administer site configuration.
Yeah. So
So,
we have.
so the administrator of the site or the site builder adds those. It's not something that
Yep.
you want to delegate to editors.
Yes, but you can
But
create a permission, and the site builder decide which person, which role can add Twitter accounts, or
I
only
would
the
say that,
administrator. They yes.
sorry, I would say that for the site-wide accounts, you don't get to choose who posts in there. So it's just something that you put on the rule, and
Yes.
you don't choose to tweet or not. You're tweeting if that is set up that way, because that's the site builder doing that.
Let me rephrase what I wanted to say. I mean, there should be a permission that should be granted to someone that will be able to link the site-wide Twitter account to the site.
Yeah,
I don't mean in the rule, but yeah, right?
yeah, that's true. I was thinking that maybe we
Yep.
can simplify that step and not create that permission and assume that that permission is administer site configuration.
Okay, so administer site configuration, right? But and yeah,
If you want to provide more granularity, you can provide an extra permission. That's okay too.
I was thinking to provide a permission in the social post module, not in the social post Twitter. It will be generic for all the implementers of the social post.
Okay, makes sense.
That's cool. And that was all my questions regarding to functionality, I guess. Let me see. Uh, yeah, yes, that was all. I don't know if you have any question.
Yes. Seeing as social post, we just heard that it has videos, and or Facebook post, auto post, and it just occurred to me that it would be quite a useful tool if we could just have a walkthrough that wasn't 30 minutes long like this call, but was more like, or 15 minutes long, was more like 1 minute that we could say, or 30 seconds, we could say, watch this, Dries, watch this, Acquia, and then we could say, this is why you need to support this. And so basically a very, very clean screencast of 30 seconds or a minute, just explaining, these are the things we can do so far. Yeah? How does that sound? Have you got the tools to be able to do that?
Can you repeat your question? I don't know if it's my internet of yours, because I couldn't listen
Okay.
to your.
So create a screencast that is maybe 30 seconds or a minute long as a quick fire advert for what you are doing and the social API, so that it becomes easier to tell people about it.
Okay, I
Uh,
could I could do so, but I first want to finish the 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 coding part, because Google Summer of Code, as its name is stated, is about coding, and documentation if after you documentation and then advertisement. So I want to first be able to finish the functionality and then try to promote the project.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
know how that's.
It's your show.
I would say this is like the thing that it seems like it's a very good fit for a non-technical person to contribute. Like if you find someone that is interested in collaborating in here and wants to and has the skills like the video editing and you know, the diction and everything, that could be great. But yeah, in any case, guys, I need to drop. See you next week, I think.
Yep, next week.
Okay. You're muted, Dan.
Yeah, I may not be on that call, but I will set it up and invite people to it. So you'll have a Wednesday call, and then I think the following Wednesday I will be with you. So yeah. So there you
Okay,
go.
fantastic. See
Yeah.
you next week.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care. Cheers. Okay, Valentin, I shall see you next week. And yeah, any material you have for me in terms of ammunition I can use to get people. I'm gonna point some people to this call anyway, because you and maybe I'll cut some bits out that are the walkthroughs that you did anyway, and I'll edit them together and create a video that just shows some of the things that we're doing. It just as a, you know, like a 30-second, it might work.
You can also set up your Drupal installation and try to work with the projects. That's also an option.
That's
Anyways,
also an option, but I don't have I don't have the skills to do that. But I will take what you've done so far.
Great.
Awesome.
So I will post my weekly summary.
Yeah.
In the Drupal group, and yeah, that's all.
Awesome.
See you. See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. See you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Cheers. Bye bye.